Right.
Good evening. Are we ready?
I think we're ready. Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you to everyone who has joined us for our first online engagement session for the Wheatland County MDP Review Project. I'm Amber Link, Reeve of Wheatland County, and this is Matthew Boscariol, General Manager of Community and Development Services. Also joining us on the webinar tonight are Sherry Bears, Manager of Planning and Safety Codes, Megan Williams, Planner at Wheatland County. Supporting the facilitation of this meeting is also Tamil Bainon from BNA Planning Group, who's providing engagement support throughout the project. Matthew and I will be leading the presentation, and then Sherry, Megan, and Tamil will join us for the Q&A session at the end. The MDP review consists of a two-part series of engagement sessions to provide opportunities for county residents, business owners, and stakeholders to participate and share their ideas as we review and update our MDP. Due to the public health situation and restrictions around social gatherings, we have moved our engagement program online for the time being. Future engagement opportunities may take place in person, depending on the timing and restrictions in place at that time. Today's session will focus on the first section of the Municipal Development Plan, which is also known as the MDP, entitled Preserving Our Heritage. We will discuss this section's intent and what changes or amendments should be considered. Part 2 of the series will focus on managing growth and infrastructure and servicing sections of the MDP, which we anticipate taking place next month.
For the meeting format, we will begin this session with an overview of today's topic, preserving our heritage. And we will be posing questions for you to consider throughout the presentation. Feel free to jot down those questions and notes as we go through the presentation, or type the comments and the questions directly in the chat function for us to come back to throughout the question and answer session. We ask that you keep the questions relevant to the topic, though our moderator will happily direct any non-municipal development plan questions to the correct department for follow-up response. After we are done the presentation, we then will open it up for a question and answer period where we will respond to as many questions as we can. You can participate in one of two ways. Raise your hand, which will indicate to us that you would like to ask a question to us directly through your microphone, in which case we will then unmute you. Or you can provide comments and questions through the chat function. If we do not get to all the questions or comments, we will certainly follow up with the attendees after the session to ensure you receive a response. We also encourage you to complete an online survey, which will be available on the website tomorrow alongside a recording of this engagement session. Frequently asked questions will be posed on the county's Municipal Development Plan Review page, and we will update it regularly. An engagement summary will also be produced for the two engagement sessions, posted on the project website and shared with Council. So what we're going to get into now is to discuss what the Municipal Development Plan really is. So what it is, it's a county-owned document that provides direction for the county over a long period of time. Every municipality is mandated to operate under the Municipal Development Plan, or an MDP, to coordinate and guide their decision-making processes, particularly those that impact land and development. To put it in a different perspective, you can think of an MDP in terms of your vision for your ideal home. Is it in the county or is it in the city? Does it have a yard? Is it near a school or a grocery store? These are major questions you can answer that you answer to support your vision of a home. That is what an MDP is for. It guides staff and council to achieve the ideal vision for what Wheatland County is, where it will go, not just for land use planning and development, but for transportation, agriculture, and environmental protection, and economic development. It has been 6 years since the adoption of the MDP. Through these last 6 years, Council has implemented the goals and objectives of the MDP. We've learned which policies work towards and which policies work against our goals and visions for the county. Therefore, we've deemed it an appropriate time to start the review. To ensure the MDP is a well-rounded document, we want to hear from how it has impacted our residents, business owners, and other stakeholders. These online engagement sessions will give stakeholders an overview of the policies, highlight some of the areas that aren't working to further our goals and objectives, and will end us in asking for some feedback. During the presentation, we ask that you keep the following two questions in mind. Does the existing policies capture your vision of heritage preservation? Are there changes that you believe should be made?
So the first section of the MDP focuses on preserving our heritage. The intent is to consider the county's long-standing tradition of agriculture, its historical resources, natural areas and water resources, and how to preserve and protect them. Wheatland County's identity is fundamentally based on agricultural operations. We are tasked with the delicate balance of preserving our agricultural lands while allowing our agricultural operators the freedom to diversify their operations. Currently, the MDP preserves agricultural lands by protecting the right to farm, encouraging the diversity of agricultural operations, and restricting the number of subdivisions allowed out of a quarter section. Restricting the number of subdivisions allowed out of a quarter section may impact whether an agricultural operator can diversify. Despite this, Wheatland County's agricultural operators have proven time and time again how innovative they are. Some of the ways we have seen diversification in the county include an aquaculture shrimp farm on 9 acres of land, a fruit winery that has local sales and ships regionally, and barns turned into wedding venues. Staff and council have noticed a trend of agricultural parcels less than 80 acres intensifying and diversifying their operations into agricultural related ventures. So there's 2 key questions that we would like to know for this section. What do you consider diversification of agricultural operations, and how can the county support this? Again, please feel free to jot down notes for a discussion at the end of the presentation, or complete the online survey to provide a fulsome response to these questions.
The Municipal Development Plan also has policies in place to preserve agricultural lands. To achieve this, the MDP restricts the number of parcels allowed to be subdivided from a quarter section to 5. Though it is still possible to apply to subdivide more parcels, applicants are expected to show how they will bring municipal servicing to these areas. This has worked towards preserving contiguous agricultural land to an extent. We have still nearly 790 acres of land removed from the Agricultural General District between 2017 and 2019. With that being said, the 790 acres only amounts to a small percentage of the county's inventory. The questions we'd like you to keep in mind for this discussion: have the county's agricultural preservation policies, have they been successful? What does agricultural preservation mean to you? And how can we better preserve agricultural lands?
A key element to preserving our heritage includes protecting our environmentally significant areas. When looking at protecting or preserving our heritage, we cannot forget about the amazing variety of landscapes and natural areas the county is home to. We have badlands, grasslands, and wetlands, and a few substantial waterways, such as the Red Deer River and the Bow River. The MDP looks to protect provincially designated environmentally significant areas and riparian lands. Environmentally significant areas are recognized for their long-term maintenance of biological diversity, soil, water, or other natural processes. Riparian areas are the transition area between land and water, and they function much the same as environmentally significant areas. They may not always need legal protection, but an area of land designated as environmentally significant should have special consideration given to it when a planning application is brought forward. In order to protect our water, not only as an environmental feature, but as a resource, the MDP contains policies to protect ground and surface water, to protect riparian areas, and to encourage multi-lot residential developments to supply their own water on site. By encouraging multi-lot residential developments to supply their own water on site, the risk of contaminating or exhausting the ground or surface water decreases. With that in mind, we'd like to know: are there other ways in which the county can protect our water resources? And should the county prohibit multi-lot residential development unless it can tie into municipal servicing?
Last but not least are the county's historic resources and tourism opportunities. The MDP policies aim to support the preservation of historic resources to ensure enjoyment and education for future generations. Historic resources include heritage sites, historic buildings, and culturally significant areas. The policies focus on recognizing and encouraging the promotion of historical resources as tourism opportunities, the restoration of historic buildings, and the protection of historic resources, to name a few. Some of the identified historic resources in the county include the Ward Effigy Archaeological Site, Gleason Tower Water Tower, and the Rosebud Hotel. We'd also like to know, how has the county done in promoting its historical resources? Should the policies which focus on the agricultural history of the county expand to cultural and paleontological history as well? The tourism section of the MDP focuses on encouraging the historic, environmental, and agritourism resources throughout the county. They require tourism development applications to demonstrate that they will have no adverse effects on nearby land uses, including the natural environment. The county has beautiful camping areas, bed and breakfasts are galore, and businesses who participate in events such as open farm days. There are many tourism opportunities for historic resources, museums and guided tours being two of those. Integrating historic resources with tourism nurtures and supports the local cultural identity. It can contribute to the local economy, which in turn helps fund historical conservation efforts. Agritourism is one way to diversify agriculture. Events like open farm days, which include farm-to-table dinners, tours around the farm, U-picks, or information sessions, promote the importance of agriculture in today's economy. In order to avoid inconsistencies between the MDP and the county's economic development plan, the number of policies relating to tourism and economic development in the MDP will be pared back.
Council's vision for the future of the county is constantly evolving as we work with residents, businesses, and agricultural operators to ensure a strong, thriving, and diverse community. The MDP is a living document, and as such, it's expected to be amended to ensure the vision is still relevant and is being achieved. The MDP review grants us the opportunity to take what we've learned over the last 6 years and make targeted amendments to the document to ensure the policies align with Council's vision for the county's future. What's your vision for the county's growth over the next 20 years? I'd like to thank you for listening to our presentation this evening. We'd now like to open it up to hear from you on your thoughts and hopefully answer any questions that you may have. Again, feel free to take some time to digest the information provided tonight and complete the online survey to share more fulsome responses to each of the questions. We would like to be mindful of your time, so we've kept the question and answer session fairly short. If we don't get to your question or comment, we will follow up with you after the session to ensure you receive a response. We will be posting responses to frequently asked questions on the website and, most importantly, producing a What We Heard report that will be posted on our website. The engagement summary will also be provided to our council for review and consideration while we make decisions about the MDP.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. We're going to now just open it up to see if any of our attendees online have any questions or comments specifically related to the presentation topics that were just covered. It's a small audience tonight, but this will again be posted on our website with an online survey. So we encourage you, if you don't have any comments in the moment, to complete the survey at a later time. It'll be up on the website for a few weeks. So if anybody has any questions or comments specifically, now would be a great time to either type them into the question box, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute your microphone and give you an opportunity to speak. So we'll just give it a couple seconds here and see if anybody would like to speak. Doesn't seem like there's too much dialogue, but I'm sure it's a lot of information to digest. And so what we might do is, oh, sorry, we do have one hand up. So I'm just going to unmute your microphone and we'll open it up for you to speak. Hello.
Hi, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. It was very interesting, and I think perhaps more than what I was thinking about it. I'm really quite interested in the direction that the county is going And I guess in particular, because I'm in Gleason and we've just lost our bank branch, and, trying to find ways of bringing people to our community, not great gobs of people, but, having people interested on a regular basis. And I know that our church the Anglican church in the community is quite old. And we had been talking about trying to get with other older Anglican churches in southern Alberta to put together kind of what would you say, religious route, I suppose, where people could visit the various churches, and people could be there to talk about the connections. And of course, our Anglican church has a strong connection with Siksika. So I'm quite interested in those possibilities, and I think it's really something that we need to think about. And I'm really glad that you're already thinking of those things and preserving the heritage that's around, because I know people come to the cemetery all the time to follow genealogical things, to find out about family. And the Gleason Call, for instance, I see lots of people looking to get information from that. So I think that there's a real interest in preserving the history of the area. And on another topic, I'm really glad that you have fairly strict rules about dividing up agricultural land, because I come from Ontario. I shouldn't say that out loud, but I do. And one of the things that I thought was very sad is a lot of the very best of the agricultural land in Ontario has been built up with homes. And what has happened, and what the farmers in Ontario and the area that we lived in used to grumble about, is people coming from the city and deciding that they didn't like the smell of cows, and they didn't like the smell of horses, and they didn't like, critters making noises in the night. And I mean, that's one of the joys that we have in Gleason, is that we can hear the cows mooing at night, and we can hear those things, and it makes it a very special area. So I'm really glad that this wonderful land that we sit next to hasn't been gobbled up with people who don't appreciate how glorious this land is. Because we sit, when they talk about God's country, I think it could be possibly right here in Wheatland County. So thank you so much. It's a great presentation, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again and making some notes about it so I can share it with the Gleason District Community Association. Thanks again.
Thank you, Margaret. You've touched on some really, really good key concepts that Council grapples with all of the time. One of the most fundamental being that balance between preserving our agriculture and really the heritage that Wheatland County is built on, the foundation of Wheatland County, and balancing that with two things that I see that are key. Landowner rights, which we touched on in our presentation, and those are the landowner rights that sort of allow our agricultural producers to diversify and to do what they need to do with their land to be sustainable. But then the other key aspect of that is also attracting investment into our county, and that's also a priority for Council. And we need to do that to diversify our tax base and to ensure that Wheatland County is sustainable as well, particularly with some of the challenges that we're seeing in our energy sector. So you've touched on some really key things. One of those being that you also touched on is making attractive communities within our hamlets that will attract some of our residential development and residential growth into those hamlet areas. And those are some of the things that Council has been discussing, and how do we best do that, and how do we prepare ourselves so that we're looked at when investors are looking where they want to locate their industry and that type of thing, that they are thinking Wheatland County. We have so many things going for us here. We have the proximity to a major metropolitan area, proximity to a great town, proximity to a wonderful First Nations with Siksika. And we also have just tremendous natural resources, both in our soil quality, but also in some of our energy and extraction and that type of thing. As well, we have the corridors that we need for transportation with our highways and byways, and being in close proximity to the airport, as well as having two major rail lines that come through different parts of our county. So we have so many elements in Wheatland County that make it an excellent opportunity for people looking, whether they're looking to come as residents or as entrepreneurs or business or industrial developers. And so it's balancing those things with maintaining that agricultural land, and this preserving our heritage. That's really the crux of that, is how do we balance those things? And Margaret, you've touched on a number of things. I know I've heard from other people in the community about kind of the tour, or the kind of the rich kind of church history that is in the area. And I think that would be an amazing initiative. And I know we have strong communities and strong leaders in our community like yourself and some of the people that you sit on so many of your boards and community groups with. And I'm really excited to see what will come from that.
Well, it's quite lovely. We've been here now 14, 15 years. I'm losing track, but anyway, what's exciting for us is within a 1.5 block radius of our house, we have 3 new homes, and that is just brilliant. And it's fun to see what they're doing, and it's also fun to see this land that has been sitting idle now has things being built on it. So that's a really positive thing. And I truly appreciate what you're saying about that the county needs to have investment, business investment. But I think that if I saw a picture of Cooley Creek Farms, and I thought, now that's a perfect mix, because it's still in a working farm area, and they have created a very unique business that brings a lot of people to our area. You know, so I think that there's great possibilities, and you know, I'm very cheered by the fact that the council is looking so seriously at these things and can recognize how important it is to ordinary citizens that all of these things be taken into account. So kudos to all of you for all this hard work. I appreciate it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that would say that. So there you go.
Well, we appreciate those comments. We have an excellent team at Wheatland County. Our administrative team is extremely strong, and they're working really well together, and council's working collaboratively on just those things you've been talking about. So we really appreciate the comments that you've made, and I would encourage you just to take some time to fill out that survey, and anybody else who's listening, if you can take some time just to put your thoughts down, because council really will be taking into consideration the feedback that we receive through this engagement period. So please do take some time to fill out that survey.
Will do.
Great. So I don't see any other questions or comments at the moment. So what we might recommend is we'll wrap up the live portion of the event, but we will obviously post this on the website so anyone can view the whole video from beginning to end. If you're on the call, if you want to share this through social media or through your networks, that would be wonderful at the website, and then complete the online survey. So I will pass it back over to Amber and Matthew just to wrap up for the night.
Thanks, Tamil. I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us this evening, and thank you to our administrative team for facilitating this session. And the key takeaway tonight is to go online and to complete that survey, and to try and share that with anybody that you think could provide some important insight for our council to consider. The MDP is one of the foundational documents that council uses to really shape the future, and I think it's a 20-year kind of time frame that we look at when we're doing that document. So it really is a long-term planning tool that we use, and your insight really is critical.
And just on behalf of the administration, and as Reeve Link said, this document really provides direction, really provides that robust policy foundation for administration and staff to evaluate all of our applications and our growth and how we grow by, to bring some sound recommendations to our council. So it's important that residents take ownership in where they live, so that both administration and council can make some sound decisions for the betterment of the county. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for participating. We'll be shutting down the webinar now.